Sam, thank you very much. Mixed reaction about the shared revenue proposal to give local governments a much-needed funding boost. Governor Tony Evers says he's disappointed in the restrictions introduced in the bill, while Wisconsin's GOP lawmakers say there are some changes they are willing to make. CBS 58's Emily Fannin, WisPolitics editor J.R. Ross have more on this week's segment of Capital Connection.
The latest news on the shared revenue front after the highly anticipated, very compact bill. We're now learning that Governor Tony Evers says if you don't make some changes to the multiple provisions in the bill, he is vowing to veto it. So where do we go from here, right? I mean, he's asking them to take out a whole host of things. A lot of them removes local control and just municipalities' ability to do certain things. Like they wouldn't be able to hold advisory referendums anymore. They would have to approve certain projects. They would have to collect data how many crimes are in schools. And some of these provisions, I mean, I even asked the governor earlier in the week saying, a lot of these you've kind of vetoed before when they were authored through bills by Republicans. So the big question now is, are top Republicans, especially Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, willing to make some tweaks to it, or is he just going to rush it through the process regardless?
In the end, they're only going to make tweaks, but there is a price of admission for Republicans in giving local governments this much new money. So my question is, what's the sweet spot for Evers where he can accept A, B, and C if they take out D, E, and F, and then he'll sign the bill? The big thing from my impression is the referendum piece of the Milwaukee County and City sales tax. Remember, Evers' own plan has a 1% sales tax for Milwaukee County and City split evenly and a referendum component. However, that piece has no restriction on where the money goes. The GOP plan has 0.375% for the county, 2% for the city, and it all goes to pensions, right? The county executive mayor said, look, that's a tough sell in our county. They're worried about if you can pass a referendum. And if you can't pass it, what's the alternative? There really isn't one. So if you give up the referendum component and allow the county board and common council to approve it, might Evers accept more of these restrictions in exchange for that? Right,
and some of those restrictions, I mean, these Milwaukee leaders are going to have to swallow them in some form because, as we've all known, Republicans say we're not going to give you a blank check. You're going to have to do things for us, you know, create innovation, do all these things in a sense. So you do this for us and you don't go bankrupt. I mean, some of these provisions, like hiring 25 police officers, putting them back into Milwaukee public schools. They would be prohibited from using any new funds on streetcar extension. I mean, a lot of these that we reported on, but there's just a laundry list. I mean, they would also want an audit of the Office of Violent Prevention. They would have to meet certain quotas when it comes to hiring police and fire. They have to, you know, keep the staffing levels as is. So that is just something that they are going to have to do in order to get what they want.
This is the Republican wish list for Milwaukee for the last 5 years, essentially. Evers has stood in the way of this veto pen. This is their opportunity in their minds to, their thinking is, we want to focus Milwaukee on core services. And there was one Republican, Tony Kurtz, who's a key architect of this bill. If you're in such dire financial straits, wouldn't you want to put every penny you could toward core services, not toward a streetcar, not toward cultural things? That's their thinking when it comes to this bill.
It's also crazy how quickly this bill is moving through the legislature. 48 hours after it was introduced, we already had a public hearing on it. And, you know, we only have really heard from one lead senator, Senator Felskowski, who has helped craft this bill on where she stands. She said on Thursday during the public hearing, I'm willing to make some changes. But, you know, there's so many members that have different views on this. There's some that say, hey, you know, what I've heard, this goes a little too far, or why are we doing all this laundry list to Milwaukee? So that's something we'll have to keep an eye out for if they want to make changes, or, you know, if they'll even pass it.
In talking to Kurtz and Felskowski this week separately, my impression was they're still talking about the referendum component to it, still talking about the Milwaukee components, also some possible changes to some of the requirements for maintenance of effort for police. The big question is, how does it go? Do they get a deal first? I had one Republican tell me, look, if the Assembly passes this bill as is and sends it to the Senate, they'll change it and send it back. We'll go back and forth then. So where are they going to be? Are they going to try and get a deal first with each other and with the governor if they go forward, or deal with each other, then take their chances with Governor Evers?
And last thing that we want to hit on is that we kind of officially kicked off the budget crafting season on Tuesday. Republicans on the Joint Finance Committee, as expected, removed over 500 provisions out of Governor Tony Evers' budget. Many of them were policy initiatives that I should say that are largely backed by a lot of voters, according to polling, when it comes to legalizing marijuana and paid family leave. I mean, that didn't stop Democrats from taking, you know, a part of the day to say, hey, let's, you know, they tried to to change the tone, saying these are things that are popular among voters. They try to file their own motion to put things back in the budget. But this just kind of sets the tone going forward that Republicans really have the final say when it comes to crafting this next state spending plan.
And the things they took out, the 545 things, they can't talk about them again the rest of the process. There's other stuff that Evers proposed. They say, okay, we're taking out the budget for now, might add it back in. So there could be discussion about the things like literacy programs or money for mental health. But when it comes to expanding Medicaid through the Affordable Care Act, when it comes to legalizing marijuana, they're out. You can't talk about them going forward.
All right, that will do it for this week. Thanks for joining us.